You ever get a message so surreal, so grotesquely ironic, it feels like the universe is testing whether you'll snap or just sit there and smirk? That was me. Tuesday morning. Same cheap coffee in hand. Same inbox full of work nonsense. Then her message came in. Congratulations, you're going to be a father. No smiley face. No hearts. Just 9 words, 9 little landmines. My fingers hovered over the screen. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I had rehearsed this moment for weeks, maybe months, in the back of my mind. I stared at the message like it was a snake playing dead. Too still. Too clean. Isn't your lover a good father to your children? That was my reply. Simple. Surgical. I didn't need to ask who. I knew. Hell, I knew everything. The late nights. The sudden need for privacy. The girls' weekends that required makeup she didn't even wear for me anymore. It wasn't just the lipstick on receipts or the weird charges showing up on the card. It was the way she stopped looking me in the eye, like I'd turned invisible. I had sinned. Sat back. Waited. 15 minutes later, I heard the car screech into the driveway. She rushed in like the house was on fire. But all she found was silence. Silence and space. Space where her shoes used to be lined up in the hallway. Space where the framed wedding photo hung. Gone. I took everything that was mine, and everything I paid for, including the money in the joint account she thought I didn't check. She called out my name once, maybe twice. I was already 200 miles gone by then, on a highway that felt more like a lifeline than a road. When she made it to the bedroom, our bedroom, she found the only 2 things I'd left behind. Her wedding rings, sitting like deadweight on the nightstand. And our marriage certificates torn in half, one corner burned just enough to blacken our signatures. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. No shouting matches. No drama. Because that's what she expected. A meltdown. A man broken. But what she got instead was an exit. She had crossed the line thinking I'd stay, because I was too nice, too calm, too dependable. What she forgot was that calm men are the ones you should fear the most. We don't blow up. We plan. That message was her shot across the bow. But my silence? That was the torpedo she never saw coming. It didn't start with lipstick on a collar or whispers in the dark. No, it started with a charger. One Sunday afternoon, she asked if I'd seen her spare phone charger. The white one with the little pink tag on it. I hadn't. But as I was digging through the side drawer in her home office, the one I never touched, I found a second phone. Not the charger. A phone. Black. Scratched up. Cheap. Burner grade. Now, I'm not the suspicious type by default. I'm the type who trusts until I'm handed a reason not to. That phone? That was a reason, bold and buzzing with secrets. It was locked. Of course it was. But it was also dumb for digit code. She once told me her high school locker combination when we were joking about bad memory. 0719, July 19th, her ex's birthday. She said she hated that she still remembered it. Guess what opened the phone? Messages. Pictures. Videos. I scrolled like a man who just found a weapon loaded with truth. And there it was, the real her. The one I never got to meet. The one who called me safe to her lover while she called him wild. The one who joked about how she had to play the role at home. The one who sent pictures from our bed to a man who didn't even know how to spell her name right in the captions. Her lover, our coworker. Jason. Office clown. Mr. It's just harmless flirting. The guy who once asked if I wanted to join his fantasy football league. I remember shaking his hand last Christmas, him laughing, slapping my back like we were friends. All while sleeping with my wife. And the worst part? She loved it. The danger. The secrecy. The thrill of having me at home, folding laundry while she was out getting wrecked by a man who still lived with his mother. She didn't just cheat. She enjoyed betraying me. It fed something in her, some twisted validation. That night, I didn't say a word. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. Charged it. Left it with 50% battery, enough for her to keep hanging herself with it. But from that moment on, I started planning. I copied everything. Every message, every call log, every photo. I opened a hidden cloud account in her name and dumped it all in there. I learned from the best, the woman who lied with a straight face every morning while sipping coffee from a mug that said, wifey. In public, I stayed the same. Attentive. Supportive. Predictable. In private, I made moves, opened a new bank account, transferred small amounts from the joint one so she wouldn't notice. I started storing my documents off-site, piece by piece, like a man inching toward the door during a fire he didn't cause but refused to die in. You see, most men find out and explode. I didn't. I evolved. People think revenge is about fire and fury, screaming matches, public takedowns, broken dishes and cops at the door. That's not revenge. That's just noise. Real revenge? It's surgical, quiet, methodical. It tastes best when it's served without warning, cold, clean, and irreversible. The morning after I found the burner phone, I got to work like a man with a second job. Because I did have one now, the job of becoming a ghost. I started small. A duplicate key to our safe deposit box, the one she never bothered to check because that's your thing, babe. I removed the most important documents, my birth certificate, passport, social security card, and all the original property records, including the deed to our house. Then came the accounts. We had a joint savings account, the illusion of unity. But only I maintained it. She used it like an ATM with no limits. Every time she said, "I love you," a new charge popped up at some overpriced boutique or spa. I started draining that account. Not all at once, no. Just enough at a time that she wouldn't notice. $800 here, $600 there. Transferred into a new checking account at a bank 2 towns over under my name only. I called it the Freedom Fund. Then the house. Now, I had been the one making the mortgage payments since the beginning. Her name was on the mail, but the equity was mine, every brick paid for with my sweat. While she was out doing Pilates, I met with a lawyer. Explained everything. Showed him the files I'd copied, the texts, the timeline. He didn't blink. He'd seen worse. But he said one thing I'll never forget. The best revenge is living well and making sure she can't. I had him prepare the documents to list the house for sale contingent upon separation. I also updated my will. Removed her as beneficiary. Changed passwords. Canceled credit cards. Left just enough rope for her to hang herself with if she tried to spend again. The exit plan wasn't just financial. It was personal. I went through the house like a thief in my own home. Collected everything I cared about. Family photos, my grandfather's watch, a box of letters from my father before he passed. Packed it all up. Stored it at my buddy Mark's garage, the same guy she used to roll her eyes about. "Mark's so intense," she said once. "He gives me weird vibes." Mark also served 2 tours and knows how to disappear without leaving footprints. We had one rule: don't move out until she gives you a reason she can't take back. And then she sent that text. "Congratulations, you're going to be a father." Not, "We're having a baby." Not, "I'm pregnant." No, "You're going to be a father." The phrasing was all wrong. Detached. Performed. A line for an audience she thought she still had. She had no idea she'd just given me permission. That day, I took the final step. Packed her designer bags with her own things, every dress, shoe, perfume bottle, fake smile stuffed into luxury leather. Her makeup? Gone. Jewelry? Gone. Bank access? Locked. I left a note. Not some dramatic manifesto. Just the receipts, literally. Photos of her texts with him. Copies of the video footage. A screenshot of her last location when she said she was with the girls. I left her rings in a tiny velvet box on the nightstand. Not out of sentimentality, but as a symbol. Here lies the corpse of a lie. And on top of it all, ripped into 4 clean pieces like a dead contract, were our marriage certificates, the church copy, and the counties. I locked the door behind me, placed the key in her mailbox, and walked away. No yelling. No begging. Just silence. Because nothing is louder than a door that doesn't slam. It just closes. I imagined the moment 100 different ways. But in every version, one thing stayed the same. She always walked in expecting control and walked out realizing she never had any. She got home around 5:42 p.m. That's how I know she was still keeping up the illusion of working late. The door creaked open, and I can only guess the silence threw her off first. No dinner smells. No TV murmuring in the background. No me tired, but dependable, waiting like some glorified doorman in my own life. Then came the walkthrough. Hallway. Empty. Living room. Furniture still there, but all the framed photos? Gone. Closet. Stripped of my things, no suits, no boots, not even a pair of socks left behind. Bathroom. Her side still cluttered with the tools of a beautiful liar. My side, clinically empty. But the bedroom? That's where it all hit. The bags packed neatly in the center of the bed, like someone preparing for an eviction. Her dresses folded, her makeup bag zipped, her high heels lined up like soldiers about to face a firing squad. On the nightstand, a box. Velvet. Familiar. Inside, her wedding ring and engagement band. The same ones I saved for, scrimping and skipping every indulgence for 9 months straight. The same ones I slipped onto her finger that day in June under an oak tree while she swore she'd love me forever. Next to the box, a stack of papers, printouts, screenshots, receipts, copies of her messages with Jason, her pet names, her moans typed out in texts, her little fantasies of what it'd be like to have a real man. And on top, 2 shredded pieces of paper, one from the county, one from the church. Our marriage certificates, now just confetti with a message. She called me 13 times in the first hour, left 4 voicemails, started with, "Baby, what is this?" and quickly spiraled into, "How could you do this to me?" followed by, "We can talk, please." Then finally, that sweet desperation. "I didn't mean any of it, I swear. Please call me." I didn't listen to the 5th voicemail. I figured if she wanted to talk, she could talk to the silence. It had been listening a lot longer than I had. Then came the texts. "You're overreacting. It didn't mean anything. You're being so cruel. You blindsided me." Blindsided? No, sweetheart. You don't get to call it blindsiding when the blindfold was one you tied yourself. I watched her spiral from a distance, each message more erratic than the last. By the second night, she was texting mutual friends, trying to spin a narrative. He just left. No explanation. Funny how people always become victims in the stories they write about their own consequences. One friend, Brian, honest guy, sent me a screenshot. Her text to him. "He's punishing me. He won't respond. He emptied the account. He took everything." Brian's reply. "Maybe you should have thought about that before climbing into someone else's bed. When even your friends don't buy your lies, that's when the walls really start to close in." The part that broke her? It wasn't the money. Wasn't the exposure. Wasn't even the fact that I left. It was that she couldn't control the story. She couldn't get ahead of it. Couldn't twist it into something palatable. I beat her at her own game, the one she thought I didn't even know we were playing. I didn't need to post the evidence online. I didn't drag her name through the mud. I simply let the truth sit, heavy and undeniable, like a body in a locked room. That's the thing about cheaters. They're not terrified of being wrong. They're terrified of being seen. And for the first time in years, she was seen. You know what no one tells you about being the other man? That it's all fun and games until the wife shows up with nowhere left to run, no lies left to lean on, no husband to foot the bills, and no alibi that doesn't collapse under its own weight. Jason, the guy she cheated with, was a walking cliché. Gym body, protein shake IQ, and the emotional maturity of a high school quarterback who peaked in 10th grade. He thought being the secret made him dangerous, sexy, some kind of rebel. No, Jason. It just made you useful. I knew everything about him. Where he lived. What gym he trained at. His shift schedule at that startup he kept bragging about, like pushing PowerPoint slides made him Warren Buffett. The day after I left her, she ran to him. Of course she did. That's what cheaters do. They confuse comfort with salvation. She knocked on his apartment door like she was still in control. But Jason wasn't expecting her to show up with her designer bags and crocodile tears. He wasn't expecting her to say, "He's gone. He took everything. Can I stay here?" You should have seen his face. Well, I did, actually. I had someone record it. See, Jason's apartment had a neighbor. That neighbor owed me a favor. I sent her a little heads up, told her to keep her camera rolling when she heard loud voices. The footage? Gold. Jason opens the door in a tank top and gym shorts, expecting a quick hookup. She's standing there, breathless, makeup smudged from crying, holding 2 Louis Vuitton bags like a refugee from a war she started. "I need to stay here for a few days," she says. And Jason? He laughs. Like full body, uncomfortable laugh. I thought this was a thing, you know? Fun. Not, whatever this is. She tries to hold it together. "We love each other," she says. Jason recoils like she just dropped a baby at his doorstep. "Whoa, no. I like you. That's different." He didn't let her in. She stood there for 10 minutes. Pleading. Explaining. Probably weaponizing the same tears that used to work on me. Didn't work on him. Because the second she became real, no longer the thrill but the consequence, Jason folded. He closed the door with the same casual ease he probably used to open it when he first invited her in. What did she think? That her lover would become her savior? That Jason, the guy who couldn't commit to a gym membership without a trial week, was going to play stepfather to a child she claimed was mine? Reality came crashing in, and for the first time, she was on the receiving end of someone else's no. She texted me that night. "I made a mistake." Of course you did. The mistake wasn't sleeping with him. It was thinking I'd still be waiting when you were done. You don't teach someone the value of water while they're standing in the rain. No. You wait until the drought, until the tap runs dry and they're licking their lips, parched, realizing too late they never learned how to keep a well full. That was her now. Thirsty. Not for love, not for forgiveness, but for the stability I had built around her, brick by brick. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning what I did for her. You see, when I left, I didn't just disappear from her life. I took her safety net with me. The rent for the apartment she fled to, paid in advance by me. The utilities, my name on the bills. The insurance, gone. The car, leased under my credit, returned. Her card, declined. That fitness club she loved to parade through like it was her runway, membership revoked, canceled under the primary account holder's rights. Her world ran on my quiet generosity. She just thought the lights turned on because she flipped the switch. She sent another message 3 nights later. Can we talk? I'm scared. Scared. That word lingered. Not regret. Not guilt. Scared. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because she needed to sit with it. To feel what it's like when the man she took for granted finally values himself more than her excuses. Let's be clear. This wasn't about revenge anymore. That ship had sailed. This was about reclamation. Of time. Of energy. Of identity. I had spent years sacrificing for someone who saw me as background noise. The dependable wallpaper to her ever-evolving drama. Well, the wallpaper peeled. The frame cracked. And now all that's left is the echo of her choices. I heard through the grapevine she tried to go back to her parents. Didn't go well. They welcomed her with tight smiles and polite silence. Her mother texted me, actually. Said she didn't condone what happened, and that things got messy. Messy? Ma'am, your daughter didn't spill a drink. She set fire to the tablecloth and danced in the smoke. I didn't reply to her, either. She tried friends next. But most of them were my friends first. The ones who watched me bend over backwards while she chased every passing thrill. They weren't biting. They stopped returning calls the minute they realized she didn't just break my heart. She tried to play victim while holding the smoking gun. Her last resort? A mutual friend named Elise, the kind-hearted one. The type who believes everyone's got good in them, even if they bury it under layers of selfishness. Elise texted me too. She's not doing well. I read it while sipping black coffee in a quiet apartment, sun beaming through the blinds. Alone, yes, but for the first time in a long time, not lonely. I typed back. Neither was I. She just didn't notice. Let's talk about the child. The one she dangled in front of me like a lifeline. Congratulations, you're going to be a father. I could almost hear her rehearsing it in her head, thinking that sentence might reverse the avalanche she caused. That the word father would anchor me to her, to us, if such a thing still existed. But that was the final insult. The Hail Mary built on the assumption that I'd cling to any connection just to stay tethered to her wreckage. What she didn't know was that I had already been suspicious for weeks. When she started acting off, it wasn't just the secrecy. It was the math. She'd been tracking her cycle obsessively for years, but suddenly she stopped sharing that part of her life. I'd ask, and she'd wave me off. It's not the right time, or it's complicated. She used to cry in my arms about not conceiving, and I held her through every tear, every test, every hope. But then, like flipping a switch, she got pregnant. Out of nowhere. No planning. No timing. Just surprise, we're parents. Except, we weren't. Not long after I walked out, I called in a favor. My cousin Alex works in private security, knew a guy. Discreet. Fast. Legal. I had already pulled strands of her betrayal out of a burner phone, out of deleted chats, out of GPS logs she forgot were synced to our shared cloud. So when she went in for her first OB appointment, she wasn't alone. Someone sat in that waiting room, logged the time, recorded the doctor's name. And when her lab work came back, well, that's when the storm broke wide open. Blood types, timelines, conception dates, all of it lined up like a firing squad aimed at her last thread of credibility. There was zero chance the child was mine. Zero. She was already 2 months along when she claimed it happened. That weekend we had makeup sex. That weekend I was out of town burying my uncle. She didn't even bother checking her own lies against my travel schedule. And still, she tried to spin it. She called me. Tears in her voice, confusion in her words. I don't know how this happened, she said. You're the only man I've ever truly loved. It would have been funny if it weren't so pathetic. Truly loved? That's rich coming from a woman who couldn't even be honest with herself, let alone me. She weaponized motherhood, turned an unborn child into a pawn on a chessboard I already flipped over. And let's be honest, even if it had been mine, I still wouldn't have gone back. Because fatherhood should never be the chain that binds a man to betrayal. It should be the legacy of integrity he builds, not the wreckage he inherits. I told her the truth, flat out. The child isn't mine. And even if it was, you still lost me. She screamed then, shattered, furious, not because I was wrong, but because she was out of leverage. The performance had ended. The mask had cracked. And the one man who used to forgive her for everything? He had finally forgiven himself for staying too long. I always wondered if she had moments of clarity, private, bone-deep moments, where she stared into the mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back. Not the curated version, not the filtered selfies, not the sweet smile she used to charm her way through life, but the real her, the woman who turned love into leverage, who used trust as currency until the account ran dry, who took a man who would have bled for her and cut him just to see if he'd bleed on command. After the truth about the baby came out, her entire world tilted on its axis. She didn't just lose me. She lost control. The mirror didn't lie anymore. I heard from Elise, the mutual friend, the reluctant messenger, that she'd stopped going to work, started skipping meals, cried in her car outside her parents' house until someone called them to come outside and drag her in. Her mother, once so quick to defend her with backhanded compliments and veiled judgment toward me, now avoided bringing her name up in conversation. She made her bed, Elise told me once. Now she's choking on the sheets. There was a twisted comfort in hearing that, not because I wanted her to suffer. Not exactly, but because the consequences finally caught up with her, and this time, there was no one left to absorb the fallout. I imagine her walking around that apartment she landed in, smaller, dimmer, and so much colder than the house she used to call home. No scented candles, no framed photos, just echo. She used to decorate our space like a showroom. Warm tones, curated vases, those ridiculous decorative pillows that served no function. She said she liked creating a mood. Said a home should tell a story. Well, now it does. The walls in her new place probably scream regret. She tried contacting my sister. Told her I was being cruel. That I could have been more understanding. My sister laughed in her face. Said, you had the kind of man most women pray for. You turned him into a ghost and wondered why the house felt haunted. That's the thing about pain. It doesn't just break people. It reveals them. And when the mirror finally cracked, she didn't see a woman who was wronged. She saw a woman who gambled everything and lost to herself. I used to wish she'd apologize. Some part of me, buried deep under the ashes, thought maybe, if she just said it, I'd find closure. But I've since learned, closure isn't a door someone else shuts for you. It's the key you forge yourself. She could cry, beg, plead, and it wouldn't matter. Because I stopped standing in front of broken mirrors, hoping to see something whole. I let her live with the pieces. There's a moment after someone burns their own home down when the smoke clears, and for the first time, they realize they're alone, not because someone left them, but because someone finally stopped coming back. That was her now, drifting through her days like a woman haunted. Not by me, exactly, but by the version of me she thought would always be there. The safe bet, the good man, the idiot who kept the lights on while she danced in the dark. You see, I didn't become a monster. I became a mirror. And that scared her more than anything. She used to joke that I was like a ghost when I'm mad. Quiet, cold, unreachable. What she didn't understand was that ghosts don't haunt the living. They linger where they died. And I died in that house long before I walked out the front door. She just never noticed. I was already a shadow by the time she told me she had a girls' weekend and came back smelling like a stranger's cologne. Already fading by the time she started taking her phone into the bathroom and locking the door. Already gone when she sent that smug little message. Congratulations, you're going to be a father, thinking it would tether me to her one last time. Now she's the one seeing ghosts. She moved back into the old house. I let her. After the paperwork was finalized and the assets split, I left her with the shell. The walls, the furniture, the illusion. I took the soul with me. Funny thing about homes, they remember who built them. Who bled into the floorboards and patched the cracks. You can repaint a space 1,000 times, but if it was born from love, and you kill that love, the place goes cold. And she felt it. I know because she texted me. I keep hearing things. This house doesn't feel right anymore. Did you ever feel off here? Off? Only every day you were lying to my face. Only every night you came home late and kissed me with someone else's name still echoing in your mouth. She called Elise again. Asked if she thought I'd ever come by. Just to check in, she said. To talk. Elise told her the truth. I wasn't angry anymore. And that's what broke her. Because anger is a tension. Rage is a tether. But silence? Silence is closure she can't control. That house? It's not haunted by me. It's haunted by the echo of her choices. Every creak in the floorboard, every shadow at midnight, every gust of cold wind brushing through the curtains, it's not me watching. It's her conscience, waking up in the dark. It's a strange thing, waking up without bitterness in your chest. The first time I felt it, I didn't recognize it. Thought something was wrong. Like my heart forgot to carry the weight it had grown so used to. But it was just gone. The ache. The noise. Her. I had moved into a modest place on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a two-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and sunlight that came through the windows like a quiet invitation. No reminders of her voice, her perfume, her chaos. Just stillness. And for the first time in years, that stillness didn't scare me. It comforted me. I started doing things she used to roll her eyes at. I rebuilt my routines from the ashes of what we were, not to spite her, but to reclaim me. I took up woodworking again. Started building things with my hands. Real things. Heavy things. Strong things. The opposite of what our marriage had become, hollowed out by infidelity and cheap words. I stopped avoiding mirrors. I stopped questioning my worth. And somewhere between sanding down reclaimed oak and drinking quiet morning coffee, I remembered who I was before she started rewriting me. There was peace in that. I met people, friends I hadn't talked to in years, family I'd grown distant from during the relationship bubble. It's funny how isolation doesn't feel like imprisonment until you breathe fresh air again. Turns out, everyone had seen the cracks. They just didn't know how to tell me I was drowning with a smile on my face. One day, Mark, my closest friend, handed me a manila folder. Thought you should have this, he said. Inside? Photos. Messages. Screenshots he'd collected the moment he suspected she was cheating, weeks before I even found the burner phone. He'd been waiting, watching, hoping I'd figure it out on my own. I didn't want to be the guy to break your heart, he said. But I sure as hell wasn't gonna let her keep playing you. That folder wasn't a wound. It was a trophy. Proof that my instincts had been right. That the gaslighting, that you're being paranoid, routine, was exactly what it felt like. Manipulation dressed up as concern. I kept that folder. Not out of pettiness, but as a reminder. Never again. Never again would I confuse loyalty with self-neglect. Never again would I let someone love me in their spare time. Never again would I mistake being needed for being cherished. Some nights, she still tried. Texting from unknown numbers. Emails with subjects like, just talk to me. Social media, likes from ghost accounts she thought I wouldn't notice. All breadcrumbs from a woman lost in her own labyrinth. But I didn't chase. I didn't even answer. Because when a man starts rebuilding himself, the wreckage he escaped doesn't get to follow him into the house he builds with his own damn hands.